Salvete discipuli, welcome to Latin lesson 13a. This unit is all about giving thanks or thanksgiving, which means it's a unit that is near and dear to my heart. When I was in seminary doing my studies for the work I do as a pastor in our church, I got to write a very long paper called a thesis. And a thesis is a paper about one big idea, and the idea was all about how important giving thanks is as a Christian. And I don't just mean when we say thank you. What I mean is, because God is a giver, because everything you have in your life is a gift that came from Him, either directly, He gave it to you, like forgiveness of sins, or indirectly, like maybe your parents give you things, but where did your parents get that stuff? Well, they worked hard, and maybe they got it from somebody else, but where did that person get it? If you trace everything back to whoever they got it from, and whoever they got it from, and whoever they got it from, it goes all the way back. You keep going, you're eventually going to run into God. God is the giver of every good and perfect gift, the Apostle James says, James 1:17, which means if your life and everything in it is a gift, what's the basic response of a Christian to the God who gives? And the answer is, we just say thanks. We don't just say thanks. Our whole life is one of giving thanks. So that's what this unit's about. Very cool. We're going to start with the first word, supplicatio. Supplicatio means thanksgiving. That's a big word for this, but there's a cool history behind it. Thanksgiving, supplicatio. The word supplicare is a verb that means to kneel. And so supplicatio was giving thanks, but it was giving thanks with a humble posture. For the Romans, saying thank you was a very big deal. It wasn't just like a way of saying thanks. There was an idea that you didn't just say thank you when somebody did something for you. You also maybe would give them something back because of what they gave to you. And so sometimes, they would kneel to show their humility in receiving a gift. And they could definitely go overboard with that, but maybe we could learn a little bit from them as well. Thanksgiving. Supplicatio, thanksgiving. Number 2, gratiae. Gratiae is a Latin word for thanks, as in, I give you my thanks. Notice the word ending here, I. It's not gratia, which would mean one thank. I don't even know what that means in English. But gratiae, from our noun chant, remember? Our noun chant was ah, I, ah. But then on the other side, it was I for the plural. This is plural, gratiae. Not one thank, but 2 thanks. Lots of thanks, all my thanks. Number 3, nihil est. This is the way that the Romans would say, you're welcome. Now make sure you spell that right in English. That's Y-O-U apostrophe, don't forget that, R-E. You're welcome, which means you are welcome. But I have written this little line here because I want you to see this isn't literally what that means. Literally, this means it is est. Do you see that word? Sum est est. Sumus est sunt. It is nihil. It is nothing. That's what that phrase literally means. It is nothing. In English, in theology, when we're studying God and we're talking about what God does, we say that God, what is God? Question 2 of the New City Catechism. What is God? Answer, God is the creator of everyone and everything. Which means when God made the world, what did He make it with? The answer, nihil. He made it with nothing. He didn't need anything. Just spoke, and then the world came into being. So that's a way of talking about how God made the world. And theologians, people who study God, use the Latin phrase ex nihilo, from nothing. God made the world from nothing. Now, when the Romans wanted to say, you're welcome, one of the things they could say, if it was really casual, if your mom put breakfast on the table and you said thanks, your mom might say to you in English, no big deal. Forget about it. Piece of cake. It's a small thing. She might even say, it's nothing. It's nothing. We get that from the Romans. When they would, get a gift and they might say thank you, the person who gave the gift might say nihil est. Nihil est. It's nothing. It's nothing. Guess what? Other languages do this too. I believe in Spanish, if you want to say you're welcome, you say de nada. De nada means it's nothing. It's nothing. All right? So I've got that here just so you could know, nihil est. You might see the word est in there and think, that doesn't mean you're welcome. But it does when they use it as a saying, as a metaphor. Piece of cake. No big deal. It's nothing. They all are just different ways of saying you're welcome. Okay? Number 4, cornu. Cornu is a horn, like a trumpet, right? Or a horn. Number 5, copia. Copia. Copia is another word for plenty, like as in a lot. Plenty, right? Cornu is a horn. Copia is plenty, meaning a lot of something. Kokus. Kokus is the word for cook. A kokus is a cook. Maybe they cook a copia, a plenty of food. Epulai is a Latin word, feast. So if you were going to have a epulai, you would need a kokus to make a copia of food, right? Number 8, si placet. Si placet. That is another phrase. It literally means if it pleases, but this is just what the Romans would say when they wanted to say please. We could say if it pleases you in English. It's just a really long way of saying please. Please. Si placet. Number 9, do. Do means I give. I give. Do. Number 10, avus. And avus is your grandfather. Grandfather, which means your awia is your grandmother. Okay? Grandmother is awia. All right. Go ahead and take a moment. Pause the video like we always do. Write these down in your notebook. Latin and English next to each other, or put some space between them if you want so you can practice them later. Covering up the Latin, you could say the English, then you could say the Latin, and you can cover up the English, and back and forth, you could practice them. Just make sure you get all 11. You don't need to write down it is nothing here unless you want to, but make sure you have all these words, and then when you come back, we're going to keep practicing our noun chant. All right, got everything? Good to go? Bene, bene. This is our noun chant that we've been learning, our first declension nouns, that first family of nouns that are all going to have these endings in common. Words like orca for whale, or scola for school, or puella for girl, silua for forest. Lots and lots and lots and lots of words belong to this family. They all have these endings, and remember, those endings tell you what that word, what that noun is doing in the sentence. So let's practice them together again, all right? Let's say them as I move down. A, I, a. I, autumn, is, as, is. Gonna do it together with me. 1, 2, ready, go. A, I, a. I, autumn, is, as, is. Let's do it again. A, I, a. I, autumn, is, as, is. One more time. A, I, a. I, autumn, is, as, is. Okay. Now something I could have explained to you earlier, maybe I should have explained to you earlier, was you see these little dashes here? All these dashes in front are to let you know that these are just endings that are tacked onto the very last part of a word. So those dashes represent a word that came before it. What that means is that all the vocabulary words, the verba latina that you've learned up to this point, that ended in an a, can actually be written like this in Latin. Puella, puellai, puellai, puellam, puella with the macron. Don't forget that. Or over here again, puellai, and again puellarum, and again puellis, and puellas, and puellis. One of the things that you need to see is that this family of nouns would look like this. All of them would. Same thing here. Orca, orcai, orcai, orcam, orca. Puella, puellai, puellai, puellam, puella. Or look at this new one, gratiae. We could start with gratia. Gratiae, gratiae, gratiam, gratia, gratiae, gratiorum, gratiis, gratias, gratiis. That is exactly how those family of nouns behave. Now, all of these endings here would tell you that that girl, that puella, was doing something different in the sentence. Maybe she's the one who's hitting the ball. Maybe the ball, unfortunately, is hitting her. Maybe the ball belongs to her. Or maybe you just want to tell somebody that there's two girls instead of one girl. You need these endings to tell you what that word is doing. So keep practicing these noun endings. You're going to learn a new set next week, and then you're going to learn how to translate them. That part's a little bit tricky if you don't know those endings. So practice them. That's your homework this week, all right? Your homework is 3 things. Number 1, I want you to do part B, vocabulary practice. That is on page 92. I want you to fill out the Latin words next to the English ones. So you've already written the English words next to the Latin in your notebook. Now in your workbook, I want you to do the opposite. Write the Latin words next to the English, and don't forget the macrons wherever you find them, okay? That's the first part of your homework. The second part of your homework is to write down puella, puellai, puellai, like that. I want you to write it down in your notebook, okay? And then I want you to practice saying the endings, and then also practice saying them on the end of the word puella. So don't just say, ah. That's great. I'm so glad you can say that. But now say puella, puellai, puellai, puellam, puella. Do that for all the singular and the plural of puella. Do it until you can do it without looking at it. Puella, puellai, and so on, all the way down. Okay, that's part 2. The last part of your homework is to work on your saying for the week. And I've run out of room here, so maybe I can do it down here. Your saying for this week comes from the Bible. You may know this. I think we've talked about it before. But there's a man named Jerome, St. Jerome, who translated the Bible from Hebrew and Greek into Latin. All right? Or he may have used the Greek Old Testament called the Septuagint into Latin. I can't remember. But the important thing is he translated the Bible into Latin so that scholars all around the ancient world who spoke Latin as their first language could now read the Bible and study it for themselves. And so we have a copy of that Bible, and you can look it up online. And if you do, you'll see familiar verses that you know in English, and you can see what they look like in Latin. For example, here is our saying this week. It's from the word do, which means I give. Jesus says date, all right? Date, that looks like date, but remember in Latin you say all the vowels. There are no magic E's or sneaky E's. Date et datibur. Let me make sure I get the macrons in the right place. It's hard to remember those. Datibur. Yeah, I thought there was one here. Date et datibur vobis. Okay, and you can write what verse this is over here if you want. This is Luke 6, verse 38. Date et datibur vobis. That's an R, not a V. Handwriting is bad sometimes, huh? Okay, and what does this mean? It means give, and it will be given to you. Okay? Or sometimes people put the word shall there. All right? Give, and it will be given to you. Luke 6, 38. Those are the words of Jesus translated into Latin. Date et datibur vobis. That's something for you to learn. It will definitely be on your quiz. So go ahead and start practicing it now, and then maybe we'll practice it again in the next video. That's all for now. Don't forget your homework. Part B, vocabulary. Write out your nouns, endings on the word puella, and then practice your saying. I'll see you in a couple days at the next video. Until then, walete.